"You'll never be one of us." The words snapped through the humid backyard air like a whip. Everyone froze. Champagne glasses paused midair. A baby stopped crying. Even the wind felt like it held its breath. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation. Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I stood still at the center of it all, paper plate in hand, the potato salad untouched. My sister, Madison, had just stabbed me in the chest without lifting a finger. She stood there, hair perfect, nails gleaming like polished claws, surrounded by her gleeful circle of cousins, their laughter sharpening the cruelty. I swallowed. I could feel my heartbeat echoing inside my ears. But I didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't blink. I just looked at her, and then looked at everyone else, including our father, who turned away and sipped his wine like he hadn't heard anything. It was our annual family reunion. Big house, big lawn, bigger egos. Every year, it was Madison's parade, and I was always the afterthought. She had the fiancé, the designer dress, the job title with too many syllables. I had, well, none of that. No one knew I had signed papers just a week ago. No one knew my name was printed on something they'd all be seeing very, very soon. "You don't belong at this table," Madison added, loud enough for the other guests to hear. She smiled like a pageant queen as she took a sip of her sparkling wine. "Go back to your little apartment and your little job. People like you don't marry into legacies." The laughter that followed didn't hurt, not in the way they wanted it to. What hurt was the silence of the ones who used to love me. My Aunt Marie looked down at her shoes. My cousin Jacob cleared his throat awkwardly. My own mother looked away, like she hadn't birthed me. All those Sunday dinners, those childhood hugs, they vanished under one public humiliation. I didn't answer. I just placed my plate down carefully on the table and walked away. No tears. No words. Just silence that wrapped around me like armor. But in my chest, a fire. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling in my downtown apartment, barely furnished, a little cold, and waited for 9 a.m. the next day. I didn't text anyone. I didn't scream. I just watched the time tick down until everything I had built in the dark would be pulled into the light. At 8:57 a.m., I got the alert. And at 9 a.m., everything changed. The headlines began popping up like firecrackers. Local tech startup acquired in $42 million deal. Founder revealed to be Emily Hart. Meet the woman who sold her app to Orion Corporation overnight. From barista to CEO, Emily Hart's silent rise shocks industry. I watched it all unfold in silence. My phone buzzed like it was possessed. Emails, texts, calls, LinkedIn requests, old friends I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly remembering I existed. By 9:12 a.m., Madison called. I didn't pick up. By 9:27 a.m., my mother left a voicemail. "Sweetheart, I think we should talk. I didn't realize. I'm proud of you, honey." By 10:01 a.m., my father texted, "Your grandfather would have been proud."
I mean that. Sure. Now you mean that.
I stood up from my couch and opened my closet. It was time. At 10:33 a.m., I stepped out in a sleek navy blue suit I had saved for this moment. Not for interviews, not for dates, but for the day they'd have to look at me different. No logos. No sparkle. Just clean power. By noon, I walked into the same country club where they had hosted the reunion yesterday, except this time, I wasn't standing outside in the grass like a servant waiting to be tolerated. I walked through the front doors. Madison was already there. She turned, her mouth slightly open. "Emily," she said, like the word tasted sour in her mouth. "Oh," I replied with a tilt of my head. "You recognize me now?" Behind her, some of our cousins were scrolling through their phones, my name, my photos, my quotes flashing across the screen. I didn't know," she stammered. "You never ask." She stood there, stunned. Her fiancé, Bryce, the rich boy with more credit cards than character, looked at me like I had grown 10 feet taller overnight. You're the Emily Hart? I raised my brow. Wasn't I always? Silence. It was glorious. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Madison blinked, trying to recover. Listen about yesterday. I don't need your apology, I said, calm but cutting. I needed your respect. You don't get to skip ahead now. Everyone was watching. And they all knew. The black sheep had come back in gold. The news didn't just break. It shattered them. By the next morning, every member of my family had seen my face on their phone screens, on news apps, on LinkedIn, even trending on Twitter. Suddenly, the girl who would never be one of them was being called the next rising tech force in America. Suddenly, my name held more weight than their country club memberships combined. But what made it perfect wasn't the money. It was the panic. At 8:42 a.m., my mother showed up at my door unannounced, wearing pearls and panic like perfume. I opened the door with no makeup, hair tied back, coffee in hand. I let her sweat. Emily, she exhaled, trying to force a smile. I just wanted to say we had no idea. Your father and I are shocked. Are you? I asked, leaning against the frame. Because I could have sworn you said I was wasting my life. She flushed. We were worried. You weren't like Madison. You're right. I cut her off. I wasn't. I never pretended. There was silence. Then she whispered, Can I come in? I smiled politely. No. And I closed the door. By 10 a.m., the phone calls came like a tidal wave. Uncles, aunts, even that one cousin who once said I looked like someone who folds clothes for a living. Suddenly, they all wanted to talk business, wanted to collaborate, wanted to reconnect. And Madison? She posted a filtered selfie on Instagram that said, So proud of my sister. The tech genius red heart, briefcase fire, #family first. The comments ate it up. But the truth? She hadn't said one word to me privately. Not even a text. Until she called that night. I picked up this time. I wanted to hear it. I wanted to watch her try. Hey, she said with that fake light voice, the one she used when she needed a favor. I've been meaning to call you all day. Sure. Wow, you really did it. I'm seriously blown away. I know. Silence. Then she pushed it. Listen, Bryce and I were talking and we'd love to invite you to our engagement brunch this Sunday. I think it'd be great for the family to reconnect, now that we're all on the same page again. Same page? I could barely hold a laugh. You mean now that I'm someone you can brag about? Her voice faltered. No, that's not what I meant. I let it hang. Then, Madison, you told me yesterday I'd never be one of you. That I'd never belong. There was a pause. Then the mask cracked. I was angry, okay? She snapped. You always acted like you were better than us even when you were a nobody. There it is, I said calmly. The real you. She hissed. You're just bitter because I've always been the one they loved. No, I said. I'm not bitter. I'm finally free. Click. I ended the call. That weekend, the same house where I had once stood silently insulted became the site of something better. Not revenge, reclaiming. Because here's what none of them knew. The deal I signed last week? It wasn't just a sellout. It was a merger. A partnership. And it gave me a seat on the board of one of the biggest names in software security, which just happened to be the firm managing Bryce's company's cybersecurity contract. I didn't need to do anything flashy. Just one email. By Monday, his access was restricted. He was flagged for violation of terms due to an overlooked clause in their operations licensing. Temporary, of course, but humiliating. He'd have to go groveling to a CTO to get it fixed. He'd have to explain it. And Madison? She'd start to notice her fiancé sweating at dinner, picking fights, checking his phone obsessively. The cracks would spread. But I didn't need to witness it. I had better things to do, like sign papers on the new headquarters, or respond to Forbes' request for an interview, or maybe, just maybe, plan something of my own for next Sunday, because they were having their engagement brunch. But I had a better idea. A press brunch. At the very same venue. Booked under my name. And there were only so many parking spots on that street. Let them come. Let them watch. Let them feel what I had felt every year, except now, the tables had turned. And this time, I wasn't leaving early. The press brunch wasn't just strategic. It was poetic. I chose the venue not because it was convenient, but because it was the same one Madison booked for her precious engagement brunch. The venue manager had recognized me from the news the moment I walked in, and let's just say some priorities shifted. We'd be honored to host your media event, Miss Hart, the manager had said, practically tripping over her own clipboard. We'll adjust the layout. The other party will just have to manage. And they did, painfully. Sunday morning came with cloudless skies and camera vans lined up in front of the entrance. News anchors, lifestyle columnists, influencers with ring lights in their bags, all gathered to meet the self-made tech star with no trust fund, just vision. I arrived fashionably late in a cream suit. Clean, minimal, no jewelry. Power didn't need accessories. As I stepped out of the black SUV, I saw them. My mother, dressed in soft pink, her pearls back in place. My father beside her, trying to maintain dignity. And Madison, she was halfway up the venue steps, looking like she'd swallowed glass. Emily, she called, that saccharine tone stretched thin. Did you book a thing here too? That's so. Wow, that's funny. Funny? The street was flooded with my posters. The banners said, in conversation with Emily Hart. I turned, smoothed a hand over my lapel, and said just loud enough, not a thing, Madison. A launch. A camera flash went off behind me. Another. Then another. It was a slaughter. I didn't approach them. I didn't acknowledge their table, set awkwardly near the back patio now, where the floral centerpiece drooped like their pride. Instead, I moved inside with the press. I took the stage they'd once claimed as theirs. I told my story. Not the success. Not the app. But the failure. The years of being dismissed, mocked, uninvited. The empty holidays. The judgmental whispers. I told them how I built my first prototype in a borrowed basement using free Wi-Fi and vending machine dinners. The room went silent when I paused and said, sometimes rejection is a blessing, because it teaches you who not to become. Applause followed. Cameras kept flashing. But all I heard was the rage building behind me, the rage of people who were used to being the center of every room. By the time brunch ended, Madison found me near the garden terrace. Her makeup was perfect, but her voice cracked. Why are you doing this? She demanded, pulling me aside. You think this is some kind of revenge? No, I said. I think this is what happens when the girl you kicked in the mud grows wings. You could have told us. I tried, I said. You were too busy laughing. Her mouth opened to retort, but a young reporter walked over, clipboard in hand. Ms. Hart, your next interview is ready. Madison backed off. As I walked away, she called out, you'll always be the same girl who cried at Aunt Carol's wedding because no one saved you a seat. I paused, turned back. No, I said. I'm the woman who now owns half the damn table. That night, things started breaking. The fake smile shattered. Bryce's company stock took a hit after a story leaked about mismanaged accounts, not from me, but someone who had once interned for me and owed me a favor. At first, I didn't want to play dirty. But sometimes, dirt's the only way to plant something new. I didn't ruin them. I simply took the pedestal they stood on and stepped onto it myself. And you know what I saw from up there? All of them, looking up, begging to be seen again. By Monday morning, the fallout had begun. A quiet kind of chaos stirred behind the scenes, the kind where reputation bleeds before anyone notices. Madison's carefully curated image, once unshakable, started to crack. People whispered at her office. Her friends grew cautious. One fashion blog even ran a snide headline, CEO's sister overshadowed at her own engagement brunch. But it was Bryce who felt the sting first. A small but influential finance podcast had exposed a string of questionable decisions under his leadership. Not fraud, not criminal, just stupid. Enough to raise eyebrows and make investors hesitate. And that hesitation cost him 2 major partnerships in the span of a week. He showed up at my office. "Emily," he began as I stood in the glass lobby, flanked by my assistant and 2 security officers. "Can we talk?" I didn't blink. "We are." "I don't know what happened." "Then you should probably pay more attention." He glanced around, lowering his voice. "Look, I know things got personal, but can we just clear the air? This is bigger than Madison. Bigger than the family. We could really use someone like you on our side."
Our side.
I leaned in slightly, voice low and sharp. "You laughed when she humiliated me.
You smiled when I walked away.
You knew what she was doing." "I didn't mean." "You didn't care," I corrected. "And now, you care because it affects you." He looked stunned, then embarrassed, then furious, and I walked away. Later that day, I got an email from Madison. No subject line. Just 5 words. "Please don't forget we're family." Family. That word had lost its meaning when they sat back and let me drown. Still, I didn't respond. I didn't have to. My silence said more than any message ever could. But I wasn't without compassion. For all the cruelty they showed me, I didn't want revenge just for the thrill of it. I wanted truth.
Growth.
A clear mirror held to their faces. So I sent one thing, a handwritten letter, delivered to their home. It simply read, "I never needed to become one of you. I just needed to become more of myself. Emily." That week, I launched a mentorship fund for young women in tech. I named it the Heart Initiative. And guess who submitted an application? Madison. The application caught me off guard. Madison. She had actually filled out the form, formally, professionally, no shortcuts, no backdoor connections. She wrote about wanting to start a platform focused on financial literacy for young women. She even added, "I've made mistakes. I used to value the wrong things. But watching my sister grow into who she is has made me rethink everything." I read it twice. It wasn't fake. Or maybe it was, and she'd gotten better at faking. But part of me wondered, just maybe, if she had finally looked in the mirror and didn't like who stared back. Still, I didn't approve the application. I forwarded it to my board with a note. "Process it like any other. No bias. No interference. Let her earn something for once." Weeks passed. The noise died down. My story wasn't trending anymore, but I was finally at peace with that. I had built my name, not for a headline or a moment, but for a life. Something real. Something mine. One Thursday afternoon, I visited the coffee shop where I'd used to sit with my laptop, building wireframes on borrowed Wi-Fi. The barista still remembered me. "You're that tech girl, right?" he smiled, handing me a cappuccino. "Didn't let anyone tell you no." I smiled. "Not anymore." I left a $500 tip in the jar. Quietly. Just because I remembered how it felt when I couldn't afford a second cup. That night, as I sat alone in my apartment, a new one now, warm and clean and full of light, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Madison. I didn't get in. But thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. I stared at it for a moment, and I typed, "I hope you find your own." Then I put the phone down, turned off the light. I wasn't the girl at the reunion anymore. I wasn't the girl who needed a seat at their table. I had built my own. And the best part? I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. Because sometimes the best revenge is becoming the version of yourself they never believed